Okay, and Gary, I'm now hitting start webinar.
Right. Well, this is Gary Acosta. Thank you all for joining us today. We have I think, a very informative and timely presentation prepared for you guys today. Let me just start off by sharing a little bit of my background on the subject of REO and why I think it's especially important that our members have access to information and really understand how this business works. Back in 2008, the beginning of what we call the Great Recession, a few of us started to notice how the market was responding to, at the time, was one of the greatest economic crises that we had experienced since the Great Depression. And what generally occurs during foreclosure crises is that either individuals who had just recently gotten into the market or folks at the time who had gotten in through some questionable financial vehicles, namely subprime mortgages, were at most risk of foreclosure. And without getting into great details, we saw that a disproportionate amount of the REOs were occurring in Hispanic and Black neighborhoods in particular. And one of the things that we feared was, as that foreclosure crisis progressed, that a lot of these properties that were being taken back by servicers, lenders, and various entities were going to end up being resold to predominantly investor communities, which would have a long-term negative impact on a lot of these communities that were hit the hardest in the marketplace. So a couple of colleagues joined forces with me to start a REO platform called New Vista Asset Management, which managed and marketed REO assets for the big players, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, as well as some of the largest servicers. And our focus really was to try to assign as many of those REOs to members of our organization who were from those neighborhoods, understood the communities, and had a greater opportunity, or what I thought was a greater opportunity, to get those properties resold to owner occupants in those neighborhoods. So um, we're starting to see, I think, some uptick in REO activity across the country. Nothing like we saw in 2008, but it's been a long time since we've seen increases, and we're starting to see that now. And so I think it's very timely for us to have a conversation with people who are subject matter experts, who have resources that are available to our members in particular, and could help those of you who either have some experience in the REO market or have a desire to learn more about that, because maybe your market is one of those that will have some of the spikes that we're seeing out there happening. We wanted to make sure that you had access to this information and to these people. So with that, I will hand the baton over to a couple folks that I've got to know recently. One is Anne Collier, who's the executive director of a group called REOX, as well as Steve Pagano. And later you'll hear from Deborah Mangona. I hope I
Lingonia.
pronounced it. Yeah, thank you for helping me with that. Who's an ARP member, but also a member of REOX, who have some information to share with you, and we'll share with you also how you might be able to engage with them further moving forward. So I'll hand it to Annie. If you want to take it from here, Annie, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Gary, so much for having us join you today. And we're really excited to be here with NAHREP because this conversation is incredibly timely. We are seeing a shift, not a crash, like you mentioned, but a shift in how distressed assets are being handled and distributed and managed. And for agents, especially those serving Hispanic communities, this creates a moment to be proactive instead of reactive. So I do have Steve and Deborah here with me today that I will be moderating in a discussion. Steve, would you like to further introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Sure. Thank you, Annie, and thanks, Gary, and everybody else from your association for having us on today. Hopefully, throughout this conversation, we'll have some opportunities to clarify a little bit of what's current in REO. And additionally, maybe be able to provide some support for any agents that are interested in engaging in these clients in the future. It's a very active industry, and I think it's underserved, to that end. But about me, I'm Steve Pagano. I started in New York around 2007, where I met Deborah also. She's fantastic, by the way, and had the mortgage company from 1997 until around 2007 as well. So we're on the lending side in New York. I'm currently also a broker in Hawaii on all the islands, and today I'm talking to you from El Salvador. So lucky I have internet service here. That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Deborah, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Sure. I'm actually Deborah Garcia Mangonia. I am a broker on Long Island in Suffolk County with REMAX Integrity Leaders presently, but I did have my own brokers office for 18 years. Been handling REO since I've been licensed since 1990 and handling REO since 1993 when I became a Freddie Mac broker, an REO broker, to this day. Basically, I've worked with many different lenders and associations nationwide, and I love the REO market. I love everything about it, and that's what I basically specialize in. So, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. So before we start the panel discussion, I would like to discuss where REOX, also known as the REO Housing Exchange, comes into the picture. REOX was built to create more transparency and access in the REO space, helping connect qualified agents with real opportunities while giving servicers a better visibility and performance in front of the agent community. So my background has really centered around helping bridge that gap between the asset management community and the agents and brokers. So today we're going to walk through what's happening in the REO market, what it means for you as an agent, and how you can plug in through REOX. So I will be throwing it over soon to Steve and Deborah, asking deeper questions. But before we do that, let's start with why this matters right now. So we are seeing that shift in the market, a transition, and traditional retail is going to slow. It's already starting to slow due to affordability pressure. And we have the early stage distress increasing, and most agents are still not paying that much attention, diversifying their business. So that's where the opportunity is. And we did have a recent REOX summit on April 16th, and one message that really stood out was the biggest opportunity is before the crowd shows up. So you want to get in during this time, and that's exactly why we're here today. So the REO pipeline doesn't hit all at once. It does build. And so the agents who understand it early are the ones who will benefit earlier on. So before we go further into the market, I want to talk about something especially important to the audience, which is the impact on Hispanic homeowners. So for NAHREP members, this conversation is even more important. Historically, Hispanic homeowners have been more impacted during market shifts. It's not because of any poor decisions, but because of limited access to early intervention, language barriers, and less visibility into options before foreclosure. So being an REO, you also get more involved in loss mitigation, and you can help homeowners. If you aren't able to get in before foreclosure, you can help them transition. So by the time help shows up, it's often too late. But with this group, we want to be different, and you want to be a trusted advisor in your community. So understanding REO isn't just about getting listings. It's about helping families earlier and staying educated before foreclosure happens, and helping your clients stay educated. So when this does happen, that you can help rebuild home ownership. And that's not just about getting listings. Again, it's about responsibility and, taking an opportunity where REO comes into the picture. So our next slide here is more what is REO. Some of you may already know the basics and you're looking to get more into REO, but some of you may not be that familiar. So we'll bring it back to a broader market approach and what we're actually seeing in the data. Steve, would you like to first touch on how agents can break into REO and what makes a good REO agent?
Sure. And while we're talking about that, REO, if anybody doesn't understand, the acronym stands for real estate owned.
Yes.
Acronym doesn't really make much sense in the real world, but that's what that stands for. And really just going back a little bit, speaking to what Gary was mentioning before, in 07, 08, I mean, and Deborah will back this up too, we were working primarily with banks, but that has shifted a lot over the past several years. I only do 100% of REO business, or what might be considered REO. So I don't typically work in retail, although agents in my offices do. So this is where I spend all my time in the trenches. The clients have shifted. We're looking at different clients these days. Primarily, I would say a large number, probably 60% of the portfolios I work with right now are hedge funds and private money, private equity firms. So there's opportunities in that. A lot of reverse mortgages. That's another thing. You could work with the government agencies. HUD is also one of my contracts in Hawaii, and we do a good amount of business with them also. So I think that the focus really in the REO world is trying to seek out other opportunities, the alternate opportunities that others aren't really particularly paying attention to. And there are a lot of opportunities for underserved communities and things like that. So I think that's probably the first place, and we could discuss that more. But those would be the first places I would be looking to engage in.
Yes, thank you so much, Steve. I agree with all of that. So what we're seeing here with this shift, that it's not coming, it's already started. Foreclosure starts are already up, REO inventory is already rising, and consumer pressure is increasing. So we've seen a 14% increase in foreclosure starts and 35% increase in REO. And that's driven by rising debt and inflation. So at this point, it's not speculation anymore. If you have been in the REO industry, you've known that for several years now, experts have been saying that REO will be increasing, and this is where we're at now. So let's see here. So I'm now going to start asking questions of Steve and Deborah. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask Steve and Deborah, if you would type them into the Q&A box, I'm taking a look at that here, and we'll ask them those questions as well throughout the presentation. So Steve, from what you're seeing, how real is this shift right now? And are servicers already preparing for increased REO volume?
Well, I think, and this is just my perspective on it, working in markets clearly across the country from each other, and they are different. It tended 2 years ago go from west to east, but now I think it's more individualized. But I do think that the opportunities have started to become creative, mostly coming out of COVID. I think there was a toe in the water type of mentality from government agencies as well as others, which was to say, hey, can we do this again? And I do think that that's ramped up a little bit. And right now we're seeing more increased activity across all default sectors, I think. But that's just today. And I don't tend to look into the wake. I tend to look into the forward aspect of it. And I do think that there's a lot more coming up, and it's just the metrics support it. So anybody who's not completely involved in REO, I think that's a good tool to add to your toolkit, or to engage in it completely, because I think there's a lot of opportunities going forward. So it's definitely worth exploring.
I agree. We have a couple of questions already from the audience. Steve, if we could get your expertise here. Liz Hernandez is asking how to connect with these new kind of clients. So private lending and trust funds, what you would recommend to a traditional agent, just on how to connect to the clients getting started.
Sure. Oh, hi, Liz. And I think folks like Deb and me have been around for a little while, so I think our names are a little bit in the marketplace, and I think that helps. But that said, I think that over the years, I think there's been a lot of people that have gotten out of the business as well, or not completely engaged. The best way that you can do, one of the best ways I think that you can appeal to servicers is to get your name out there through different organizations that are really specifically more REO oriented. REOX is a great example. Our organization is being looked at constantly by asset managers, hedge funds, and things like that too. It's one leg of a chair, though. That in itself won't get you in front. You can do BPOs. That was the old way. I don't know if that's completely as effective these days. but attending organizations and even being on webinars like this, you start to engage with other agents and brokers that know what they're doing. And to that end too, this is something that the services want people that are experienced in this. They can't afford. I always have said that this is very similar to air traffic control and surgery. I know that sounds like a mockery, but it's not. We have to be 100% accurate at any given time. We can't fail these clients, and we're only as good as the last piece of work that we've accomplished. So that's one of the biggest tenets of our activity as brokers. We really need to be 100% on our game at all times. So if you're prepared to do that, there's opportunities and places for any agent that's willing to demonstrate that they have those capabilities at the table.
Right. Hopping in on that question too, through REOX, we do have our directory and we're constantly marketing the online and printed version of that. And we have an asset management webinar series where you can ask questions during, and some of those also allow for live engagement. And then the attendee list is always sent to the presenter. And then through our live events, you can connect in person, as well as we have a mentorship program for anyone who hasn't been in REO for at least 3 years. We urge them to be a part of that, where you are connected with a more experienced member who can help you along and make those introductions for you. We as an organization will also send connection emails and things like that to try to get you in touch with the right people. So let's see here, Deborah. The next question is for you. Are you seeing changes already in how assets are being handled in your market?
I think there's definitely been shifts. The timelines, I'm seeing a stronger push towards tighter timelines, cleaner reporting, more accountability. I think anyone who's trying to get involved in the REO industry, that the biggest thing is because of the platforms that many of these servicing companies, hedge funds use. If somebody I started with BPOs. I've been doing BPO since 1990. Okay. There are so many BPO companies out there. I think that's still relevant. Additionally, the platforms such as Pyramid Platform, Accelerus, Equator, um, are unfortunately, the thing is that there's an affordability on each one of these platforms, which they're expensive. But the idea is that's where you would be the asset managers. And the thing is, though, the reason why I say start with BPO companies mainly is because, like Clear Capital, the reason for that is mainly because you have to be able to concisely do broker's price opinions for these hedge funds and banks in order to be able to even be selected to be an REO agent for the properties. I guess, those are photo documentation, videos, all that stuff is very important. So, but I would suggest to start as a start, get into it. These platforms are extremely, important.
I agree. Yes. And BPOs too, I think for the newer agents or new to REO, BPOs are relevant, and showing that you can be timely with assignments and really using that as a foot in the door technique.
Right.
Yeah. So Deborah, what do you see on the borrower side that's driving this increase in distress? And are there early warning signs that agents could be watching for?
Um, I don't really, well, there's, a lot of pressure points that hit all at once. As far as a lot of homeowners who bought or refinanced the past couple of years, the thing is that typically when REO starts to increase, it's maybe the values are decreasing, but we're not seeing that shift here now. I'm still seeing homes selling over list price. There's not as much negotiation in pricing. I think that we're seeing, a lot of homeowners now are coming out of forbearance and loan mods after COVID. I think there is a greater opportunity where we could help is where people who are in trouble with short sales, if there's, if they haven't paid their mortgage such a long time, because the banks are taking long to foreclose. In New York, where I am, it's close to 500 days before they foreclose on a property. And that's a long time. And there's so many ways of stopping a foreclosure. But you have to have the know-how in order to be able to do that. That's where you can help homeowners who are in distress. Um, and, being able to maybe get that information out there to homeowners who need help.
Right. And I think too, that just makes me think of short sales, which for those who don't know, selling a home for less than it's worth to avoid foreclosure. And we keep using the word REO, but it is also involving loss mitigation. So in a lot of cases, you are preventing someone from losing their home and you are working with them before foreclosure, or maybe they do still need to leave the home, but you can help them do so in a fashion that they don't have to go through the foreclosure process first. So short sales, I believe, is where more of the business is right now. But you do want to be considered an REO agent to get those to get those short sale listings. We do have Rick Trejo asking, is the mentorship program a paid program? Are there minimum qualifications? So it's not a paid program. Our membership cost is $125 a month. We do have a NAHREP 99 discount code to get a $99 a month price. And the mentorship program is something that's included within the benefits of our network. So you can be paired with a mentor at any stage in your career. To be a mentor, you have to have at least 10 years of experience in REO. So hopefully that answers your question, Rick. Let's see. The next question we have is for Steve. How does REO create stability compared to traditional real estate? And do you think agents underestimate how affordability impacts foreclosure risk?
Can you repeat the second question? I'm not so sure I got
That
my
was
head.
a two-parter. Yeah. We'll start with the first one. How does REO create stability compared to traditional real estate? So just stability in the housing market.
Well, this is interesting, but a friend of mine, Eddie Piro, who you may know, Deborah, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he once told me something that resonates to at least that comment. And he says, the way REO works is it's like having a car on the parkway. And you're in a traffic jam, but you really have to move that car out of the lane in order for traffic to start flowing freely again. So I think even in terms of REO, and you're looking at neighborhoods where there may be some blighted properties on a block or something like that, that very much affects the value of all the other homes on the in the neighborhood. And if there's a number of distressed assets, it affects neighborhoods completely too. So I do think that moving them out timely and really as agents on properties like that, we need to be very effective in moving sideways a little bit to be the eyes and ears to the asset managers and to the clients, because they're not here. They're relying on us to provide our expertise in telling them whether the property needs to be repaired or if it should be sold as is. If there's any health and safety issues in New York, right? We've got winterization. In Hawaii, we don't. So, we've got a bunch of different aspects of these things. We really need to be grounded and knowledgeable in what's driving those markets. And sometimes you need to take a position with them that says, listen to me, I'm right about this, and take action on those things that you feel very certain about in order to move the asset in a timely manner.
I agree. Steve, do you think that agents underestimate how affordability impacts foreclosure risk? So maybe more for traditional agents, do you think that anyone is underestimating how affordability can impact future foreclosure?
Annie, I don't necessarily think so. I think that if you're a knowledgeable agent and you really take this as your task to be the best that you can be in your field, you're going to be knowledgeable about most aspects of this. And I think that that's just a matter of awareness and how much effort you want to put into your craft. So I do think that as an agent, your responsibility to your clients, whoever they might be, whether they're traditional buyers or sellers or REO clients, is to be as knowledgeable you can be at your craft, and to be on calls like this with Gary and the rest of us to to keep learning. And I'm constantly learning. Given time, I'm trying to learn something new every day.
So Steve, you mentioned that 100% of your business is REO. That's correct, right?
Yes, yeah, for the most.
Okay, so what do you think happens to agents who rely only on retail with the shifts in the market?
Well, I I think that there's quite a number of agents that'll do well in the retail. They've managed to
Mhm.
brand themselves well and have extended reach into their neighborhoods and their communities through their churches and other things. And I don't know that being 100% an REO is a good thing. I'll tell you right off the bat. I lived through I lived through COVID, and that
Mhm.
wasn't a great time to be in this business. Although it did the opportunities that came out of that subsequent to that um, were very creative. But I do think that, for the average agent that needs both or, can do both, I think that it's an excellent tool to have in your toolkit. And I'll tell you why. It's You're able to help people that might not have the answers. Most people understand what a traditional sale is. But let's say that you have a seller, for instance, that might be upside down in their house and they're getting ready to try to sell. You need to be able to provide them with the most accurate and timely information that is available to us today. And that may be different depending on what was 6 months ago, or it might be 6 months from now. But to
Mhm.
really give the best presentation, say, look, your mortgage is higher. We're going to talk about a short sale. This is how it works. Um,
Right.
and you want to know how it works. Don't bluff your way through this stuff. People deserve better.
Mhm.
And some agents do. But so just to be able to give them all the options that you could possibly give to your client. And then on the listing or selling, a buyer side, um, this is an extra tool. There's not an additional way to make money. And REO properties are a lucrative career for many. So I would
Mhm.
typically gauge that most REO brokers probably earn significantly more than your average retail broker overall.
Right. Right. Deborah, how do you divide up your business between REO, retail? Do you do any commercial? What does your
I actually I was strictly REO for almost 20 years.
Mhm.
After COVID or during COVID, when the retail broker is the one who was really making the money, uh, because of course the banks put a stop on everything because of what was going on. Coming out of that now, I'm starting to see the REO pick up.
Mhm.
But I also learned, believe it or not, during that period, I went to retail and started doing retail because it was necessary to stay alive, basically. I handle both now. I also handle commercial. I do commercial BPOs, uh,
Mhm.
commercial inspections. I basically had to expand my outlook as well, because it was necessary to stay alive in this business.
Right.
And the thing is that commercial REO now is becoming very big. So if you have a
Mhm.
commercial background, it would serve you good to, get involved with, or try and get involved with banks that are uh, handling commercial REOs. Um,
Right. I know a lot of our members are doing commercial, and we're trying to get more diversified in that space as well. Would you say that REO is more about consistency than volume, or how do you look at that side of your business being successful or not?
REO is absolutely more about consistency than volume, but volume only comes after you prove that you can execute everything
Hmm.
in the correct way. It isn't about looking at the volume, if not the consistency, because when you're dealing with a lot of these hedge funds, everything is timing, timing, accountability, accurate reports, making sure you perfect your broker's price opinions. Basically, my background is as an appraiser as well. So because of that, there's been a difference. You have to watch it with fair housing and ethics as far as what you input in your information and your data information into these brokers' price opinions. That's, I believe it or not, even to this day, I'll still take classes in regards to that effect to, make sure that I'm updated on everything that's necessary what the banks are looking for. Like Steve was saying before, basically earlier it was that we dealt with banks. We're dealing now more with hedge funds and
Hmm.
there's a lot of I'm dealing with a lot of reverse mortgages right now. And as a result, these hedge funds, they're repairing the properties to be able to sell to an owner, not to investors. 90% of my listings are being repaired. So You have to be able to have that information as well in order to say when the bank comes to you and says, "Do you have contracts?" So handle this. Be prepared for all of that. It's a very different market than regular retail, where you're just dealing with a homeowner who has sentimental value.
That's well stated.
I'd
Yes.
like to add to that too, Deb. When you're asked to do, like Debbie said, that 90% of her portfolio right now is as repaired. And that didn't used to be like that. Most of the time it was, they're
As is.
selling it as is. But
Yeah.
that also means that you have to have an additional tool in your box. You need to be able to estimate these repairs very accurately.
Absolutely.
There's tools available online that can help you do that. But it's a great idea to have a couple of great contractors that you work with, that you could refer to these, and as long as they have decent pricing and they do good work. But to understand that part, the pricing of these repairs too, because that also factors into what these properties are worth as an as repaired asset. You don't want them putting 100,000 into the place and then losing 60. You always say $1 in, $1.25 out. But if you're going to put $1 in and you're getting 60 cents back on that, that wasn't good advisement to your
It
client.
wasn't cost effective, yeah.
Right.
Right. I'll ask this next question of both of you. What do you think that asset managers actually care about most when working with an agent? And what do you think keeps an agent in rotation to receive REO listing assignments? Steve, I'll start with you.
Okay. Actually, I've got a couple of things. I would maybe have 3 or 4 things. I would say tenacity is one of them. You have to be willing to show up, and you have to be willing to give 100% at all times. We're really blessed to be in this business, I would say, on the REO side, because my phone rings in, it doesn't ring out. So I never forget that that's a blessing to me in my life. So I try to make sure that I'm always giving 100% at all times. One of the big things asset managers want is somebody who's responsive. If they're emailing you today, and most of it by and large is email, I'm sure Deb will agree to that. But they're not going to call you too much on the phone or text you, but they're going to email you. Don't wait 2 days. I mean, if you get back to them right away, they need communication. It's important. Timely. Many REO tasks are time-based, and your scorecard is directly related to that. So if you're getting tasked in Pyramid, ResNet, Equator, Accelerus, or any of these other platforms, and we can talk about the platforms later, but make sure you turn these things in on time. You have a scorecard, and there's always somebody else who's willing to work just as hard. So it's just, man, I've said this for such a long time, but it's a lot easier to keep the clients you have than it is to find new ones, especially with REO. So if you're demonstrating that you've got ability and you're getting things taken care of, they're going to stick with you. But if you're shaky and you're not really delivering, they're going to look outside the network. So it's a lot easier to keep the clients you have than it is to go find new ones. And I would just say, being excellent in your space, whatever your space is, be the best at it. Don't leave any room open for comparison. Be the best that you could possibly be in every aspect of REO and in and outside of this business, actually.
You got to remember that you're the boots on the ground for the out of state entities that are you're taking care of. They are basically looking to protect their asset, and you're the person they're depending on to do that. And in order to do that, they expected from initial acquisition of the transfer of ownership that you are handling everything for them, so that this way if you have to be hands-on. That's all basically what I could say. And the thing is that accurate pricing from day one, clear conditioning reporting, making sure that homes are being taken care of, that even if the homes aren't being repaired, making sure you have your property preservation team out there taking care of the landscaping. They don't want it to show that it's a foreclosure. They don't even like you using the word foreclosure or REO in the property descriptions when you put it on multiple. Even if you could put sold as is, the word foreclosure or REO cannot be in that description box. Okay, because they may be the seller, it may be an asset to them, but they want you to pretend that they're a regular homeowner selling that property almost. And you have to come across that way. The thing is that if there are any issues, they expect you to flag it right away. Come to them, let them know. Don't come to them to tell them, come to them also with a resolution for that possible, what they're looking at. Their timing is everything. Timing is everything.
Yes. Yeah, I think and keeping those updates frequent, because if they're having to ask you, then that's a problem. So I agree with everything that both of you said. We do have a question coming from the audience. So Deborah, you mentioned some platforms that agents getting into REO should be joining Pyramid, Equator,
Colorless.
ResNet. Yeah. Which if budgeting is a concern, what two platforms do you think that agents like have to join to be in REO? Like which two would you recommend the most, I think is what they're asking.
That's a tough one. You know why? Because ResNet and Equator and the Pyramid platform are really the largest, but at the same time, they're also the costliest. You know,
Mhm.
ResNet is $700 a year. Equator might be the cheapest.
Mhm.
Pyramid platform, if you want to show, and be able to advertise on there, you're looking at $1,500 a year.
I do know it's very new. I do know that Equator is now also Equator Asset Management. So they are working with a couple of banks, and I think they're looking to increase that
Yeah,
and actually assigning listings, not just as a platform, but being like the decision maker in those assignments.
yeah,
So I mean, I'm a big fan of all of them. ResNet too. I mean, I do think there's probably, yeah, those main four that you have to be a part of. Steve, what would you say?
Yeah, I would mention those, but this is the one thing, and as I'm listening to Deborah speaking,
Mhm.
and this is the tough part of it, is that I think it's also geographically specific in some
yeah,
ways.
Right.
In my New York office, I get more from ResNet than I do from other companies, let's say, but the asset managers who use these platforms change platforms from time to time. So what may be
Mhm.
more relevant in your market right now might not necessarily be in, like I use REO Central primarily in my Hawaii offices, but I also have Pyramid and everybody else. So I think it might be more, it's not the answer anybody would be looking for, but I think it really depends on what's going on geographically and who are your major
yeah,
services in your market than it is more of a national thing.
right.
Right. Okay. That's all the questions from the audience right now. Continue to type in your questions if you have any. And then the next question that I have for you guys is I'll ask this of Steve. Why do you think agents fail when they get into REO? And is it access, knowledge, or execution that you think that they need the most?
Um, I think that at least in my opinion, I think that people might not realize when they get into it initially, the amount of time demands that's placed on you and the
Mm-hmm.
amount of accuracy that you need to uh, really be able to hold yourself to that higher standard. There's a lot of benefits to it. I told you, I'm here in El Salvador working today, and I could work from any place in the country, and I do. I have a laptop and I have a phone, and I've got great systems and agents in place and a team that I've managed to build out and scale over the years, so that I'm able to compete at 100% accuracy, and that'll never be enough for me. But I think that a lot of people failed because they think it's going to be easier, and they
Mm-hmm.
might not treat this as the business that it is. You need to hold yourself to a higher standard on this side of the market. And I think you should be doing that anyway, regardless of what side of the market you're on. I think if you're in retail too, be the best you can be. This is a career. And I don't know what the attrition rates are, but a lot of people leave real estate business. They think it's going to be easy. It's not as easy as you think. But I do think there's probably one of the most rewarding things, but your time is your own. And there's just many great things. But I think that the reason why a lot of agents fail would also be the same reasons that they fail on the retail side.
Right. Deborah, what do you think are the biggest mistakes you see agents make early on getting into REO?
Missing timelines,
Mhm.
delayed occupancy checks, slow response time. The same way now in retail, which I never used to see, but now you've seen in the past, actually 5 to 7 years, even more so, is teams. Typically, if you're an REO broker, you need an REO team. You need a property preservation specialist. You need contractors you can trust. You need contractors who, do the repairs. You need inspection contractors or inspection agents because most of these properties have to be inspected on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
But it's the slow response time, I would say, because in REO, it's a quick way to lose people's trust or your client's trust. Poor communication, that would be, reasons that agents don't see um, repeat business.
Right.
If you're giving an opportunity, you've got to grab it and run with it. And this way, even do, go over and above, you know.
I agree. Okay, we are nearing the end of our presentation. This next slide is about why you should work with REOX and become a part of our network. I'll ask Steve first. What do you think makes REOX different from traditional ways of getting REO business?
Well, I think going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, I don't think any one angle is going to be your way in. There's no magic bullet in this business, or
Right.
really any business. But I do think that, and really specifically speaking to REOX, we've got a very high level. We have a high bar of the people that we're working with. But I think that also the scope of what's necessary to get business in this requires you to put all boots on the ground. So you need to understand that it's the people that we work with. It's the network of people. That's not to be minimalized. You'll meet so many people that have the ability to get your foot into a door that you might not be able to get on your own. And that's huge in this business, because this is a business about relationships. They said that in the movie Jerry Maguire. That was my biggest takeaway from that movie. This business is about relationships, and that applies to this business as well. The more people you know, the more connected you are. Show up at trade shows, meet other brokers doing these things. Over the years, Deborah and I have worked together on a lot of things, mostly me selling her stuff, I think. But we've known each other for a long time. And I think that building great relationships with people is very helpful and beneficial. But it's also places like REOX where you can get the training. You're going to be able to demonstrate to the clients, because they're looking. Demonstrate to clients that you're working, that you're a working professional in this business, that you're not just putting your toe in the water, that you're serious about it. And eventually you will get assignments, and eventually you will make those connections to get your first assignment if you haven't done it before, or if you've been doing it for a while and then just stop during the slow times, to get the opportunity to come back in and, and turn it into a meaningful career.
Right.
Right.
We do have someone asking on this note, and I'll speak to this a little bit if you guys would like to as well. If we assign listings, like if we are like those platforms that were mentioned, we are not like those platforms. We do have what we call our work assignment program, where we've worked with asset management companies who are having a hard time finding an agent, either because it's in a rural area or maybe the agent that they're used to working with has stopped performing. And so we have received direct listing assignments from companies like VRM and Shell Point and assigned them to our members who fit the criteria. Usually that's within a certain amount of miles from the property. And then I know through our webinar series, there's been some members who've received listings from the presenter where, while they're on the call, they'll say, I'm having a hard time finding an agent in this area. Is anybody on this call able to take this assignment? And there's been direct listings assigned, so to speak, from us in those ways. But a lot of it is through the more indirect connections that you make through the live events, through attending the webinars, being in the directory, where someone may stumble upon you or meet you, at a cocktail party at one of our events, or through our more targeted, we'll have meeting suites at our November conference, which is November 8th through the 10th, where you can schedule 15-minute meetings with major asset management companies and servicers. So I would say in a lot of ways, it's more indirect than the platforms like Equator and ResNet. And then through the mentorship program and the education that we're constantly coming out with, just making sure you're equipped. But I don't know, Steve, if you'd like to elaborate or speak more to that.
Oh, so it's the membership aspect or the mentorship, you mean, right?
So the question was if we directly assign listings, and I think there are ways that members can receive listings, but in ways that's more indirect, sometimes through the connections that you can make and through the education and training. But what would you say to that about receiving listings directly from the membership?
I would say both, Fanny, because right now, as we've discussed, it's the other members. I've got friends in other markets that have asset managers they work with, and we, help each other and we share each other's information. Sometimes there's a need in the market, but oftentimes a great agent's word carries a lot of weight in this business, especially if you've been performing. So that network enables us to be able to help asset managers, but then also be able to help other colleagues of ours who are involved in this. And speaking to the REOX directly, I do believe that we do have some asset managers now, but we're bringing in new companies to work with all the time. So I do think that those opportunities going forward will be greater for agents. And we don't have every market served yet. So, we would definitely like the opportunity to discuss with anybody on the call. If we're in a market that we can help you in, we're here to help. And I would also say, while I have this opportunity, if anybody wants to contact me offline and has any other questions, I'm very easy to reach. Please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help anybody get set up and point you in the right direction if I can.
Right. I think that's another great thing about our network is that we have an amazing advisory council and amazing mentors who make themselves readily available for questions and talking through things on an individual level that's specific to your market, where this is a more broad conversation. So, Deborah, how does REOX help agents get access earlier? What have you seen through being a part of the network?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that.
That's okay.
No, it's just because I just find that the communication is excellent. The being able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, or being able to be a part of like a panel such as this, is an opportunity to be able to broaden, your outreach. There are so many different memberships out there. You have to be cautious about who's running them. And
Right.
education is everything, especially with REO. So just continue to learn, not only that, affordability. REOX so far, I find is just perfect for especially somebody who's trying to get into the REO business.
Right.
Because you're going to have a lot of mentors around you and a lot of REO brokers or agents who do have the experience and they're willing to share it.
Right. Yes, and we'll send this presentation to a few people are asking about the recording. We'll send this to everyone who registered. And in that, we'll also send the discount code, speaking of affordability, the NAHREP 99 code, which does make that monthly price a little bit less at $99 a month. So we do aim to stay affordable in this economy and provide value in all of the ways that we're able to. So we have now at the end of our presentation some more questions that have come in from the audience. So I'll just ask these of both of you and whoever wants to jump in. So this one I might be able to speak to actually. It's what qualifications are required to join, and do I need REO or BPO experience? Some of the groups do make it to where you have to be in REO for at least 3 years or have sold at least 100 properties. We open up our network to anyone who even hasn't begun REO yet. We do require, if you have less than 3 years of experience, that you join that mentorship program I mentioned, and we will be coming out with certifications, REO 101 being one of them. And at that time, we would require that as well. So anybody can be a part of the group. We run, as far as qualifications, we do run a background check. We require errors and omissions insurance and a real estate license. And then we do, a reputation search, just making sure, that your online reputation is good. And if we find anything, talking to you about that. But yeah, there's not any REO or BPO experience required to become a part. Okay, the next question that we have that came in is, so yeah, again, on platform fees, there's a lot of initiation costs with the platforms and other networks out there. We don't have an initiation fee. It's just that monthly cost. Okay, so Steve, you might be able to speak best to this. Which banks and hedge funds are you working with right now? You mentioned that you're not working with just asset management companies, but also hedge funds. I think, Deborah, you mentioned that as well. Who are your major clients right now? I think is what is being
I'm
asked.
happy to give people that information offline. That's not
Okay.
something I prefer to disclose on this, but but it is open information, and if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, I'd certainly be happy to share those relationships, to the extent that I'm allowed.
Okay.
You reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Okay. This is another question that you might want to take offline, but for both of you, how stable and consistent are your asset flows when it comes to REO? So Steve, again, you've said 100% of your business, and I know you're very successful, so I'm assuming it's pretty consistent there. Deborah, would you say your asset flows with REO are pretty stable?
The 95% of my business is REO, and short sales. And then maybe 15% retail.
One thing I would mention too while we're talking about that, and this is really important, I'm sure Deborah, you'll agree too, never bite off more than you could chew. If you get a couple of assignments, to start out with, everybody wants to handle as many as they can, of course, but be effective at the ones you got. You're much better off to not blow it with the client. Let's say, for instance, if you're out of market, it's 2 hours away. That might not be an asset that you can service effectively. Don't blow your relationship with your client because you're not able to, or let's say it could be commercial and you don't really understand commercial. Stick with the stuff and things that you can perform at, because that's the way to get more assignments. It's organic, but it's really the best way. And if you can't manage right now, I think I currently manage about 60 properties. My systems allow for that. I can manage maybe up to 100 effectively. If I had to get 100 tomorrow, I couldn't do that. So
Right.
stick within your means, within your realm, because you need to be able to perform, like I said earlier, 100% on everything.
I agree. I had one of my contacts request that I go like 2.5 hours up to New York, and I was honest with him. I said I can recommend somebody, but I prefer not to, because I knew I couldn't be consistent in doing the property inspections. I'll go out there and and get you the information that's necessary, but to be able to do what you're supposed to do, I knew I wouldn't be effective. I said, if you need me to do it, I will do it. But he was like, no, I prefer that you're honest with me and not took the assignment and then couldn't follow through on what I was requesting. So, it's, you stay within your market area. I have a town to zip code breakdown that I send, and it is uploaded to every different asset management company that I've worked with, so they're aware of it. Sometimes they've tried to assign me assignments that are outside my area, and I'm just honest with them. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I want to do the right thing.
Right.
So,
Don't overpromise, because then that becomes a blemish. And most of them are they have the 50-mile radius requirement
right.
for a reason, and then they're sometimes having trouble, and they see that you're performing really well, but then if you can't service that in the same way that you do the others, then that becomes a bad mark, and whoever sees that doesn't realize
Those
how
10
far away.
those 10 good like assets that you service correctly,
Right.
and then you service one, you take it because, oh, I can do it, and then it doesn't work out. They're going to remember the one that you didn't take care of instead of the 10 that you did.
Right. Exactly. We have another question from Melinda Danio. This is about the errors and omissions insurance that I mentioned. So general liability also works, and most agents should have this through your brokerage. So if you just ask them for that, I'm sure they would either be able to provide errors and omissions or general liability. And that's because through the work assignment program, and when like I was on a call with the head of REO at Freddie Mac, and he was saying he was having a hard time finding agents in specific areas, and just asked for our entire roster of members. So I sent that over to him, but I had to say that within this roster, everyone has a real estate license and everyone has errors and omissions. It's just the the base level requirement. And again, general liability also works for that. So, okay, it looks like we have time for one more question. Let's see. And if you have a question that was left unanswered, feel free. My contact information is on the screen here, so feel free to reach out. So let's see. What liability does the agent take on property condition reporting accuracy that may be different than traditional? Can either of you speak to that liability?
I'm sorry.
So for about the risk that may be involved with taking on a REO listing, what liability does the agent take on that may be like property condition or reporting accuracy? Do either of you find that there's more liability concerns with REO than traditional?
Well, I think there's equal amounts. I think it's just a different liability. And I don't tend to think of it in terms of so much liabilities as it is, if you're able to manage, and you're not always able to get outside of it, but if you're managing your assets correctly and really, once again, we said before, eyes on the asset, boots on the ground. If you're really looking after your assets like that, you're minimizing liabilities and risks to your client. At any time, something can come up. You may pick up a squatter or something like that, and that you don't know. But I'd say by and large, by correctly managing your assets, you're really limiting liabilities. Your clients have realistic expectations as to what you can do and what you can't do. As long as you're communicating with them timely, hey, we ran up into this yesterday. What would you like us to do? And then give them some options. I've got a guy's number we need to resecure this property. Would you like me to go ahead and do it today? Here's the estimate. So you're providing them with solutions, and the opportunity to make corrections quickly and in real time. So I think that really is your mitigating of risk, which is so important to the REO side of the business anyway.
I agree. Deborah, would you like to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think there's a greater liability when you're an REO broker as compared to a regular retail broker, because now with between, the ring and the cameras in the house and everything, the liability really doesn't come into play as much with the regular retail. That's why property inspections on a weekly basis for all your vacant properties is extremely important. This way, and also, with date stamped photos, it backs you up. Every time I go to one of my properties, whether I was requested or not, I take photos when I'm there. Okay. Because if they say all of a sudden, it's already happened to me, that, I had a property that we were at the property on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, I get a call, somebody had moved into the house. Okay. But the thing is, I had proof I was there on Tuesday, but that was also proof for the police when I got them to just evict the squatters that moved into the house.
Right.
That's very important, the property inspections, and that it helps you to not have to have that liability is great, but you have an inspection team that goes out and inspects the properties this way. I'm at my properties every 5 to 7 days, no matter what. If it's not me, I have somebody who's doing it.
Right. That kind of brings up the safety concern too. One of our partners is Tether, which is an app, and through our network, if you're a member, it's only $8 a month to have this app where you can run background checks on anybody. And this would be good for just traditional real estate agents too. You can run background checks that are national, and cover anything that they may have on their record. You can put that you are going to be at the property for 20 minutes, and if you don't check out of the property, then somebody will call you, and if you don't answer, they'll send local law enforcement. So with increased risk of squatters and things like that, keeping your safety top of mind is important. That was all the questions, or the time that we had for the questions. So if you are interested in signing up to be a part of our network, you can fill out an application at the REOX.com Several questions have come in about the monthly cost through your NAHREP discount code, which would be NAHREP 99. It would be $99 a month with no initiation fee. And some digital events that we have coming up that you won't want to miss in our servicer and asset management webinar series. We have JP Morgan Chase, Celine Finance, BOK Financial, Equator, VRM, and Arimco Asset Management, all coming up throughout the summer. We also have our annual November conference, November 8th through 10th, which will be in Fort Worth at the Sheraton. So those are events that you won't want to miss if you are looking to get involved in REO or just expand your REO business. So thank you again, Steve and Deborah, and of course, Gary and NAHREP for allowing us to use this space and all of your the time that you all took out of your day to be here. Steve, Deborah, would you like to say anything before we close?
It was a pleasure being here. It was a pleasure joining you. And
Thank you so much.
Again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and likewise, and I would say, please feel free if you have any questions. Maybe not everything was addressed on this call today, but feel free to reach out to us. My information is widely available. And if you have any questions or you'd like to know anything further about the REO space, please feel free to give us a call. Thank you.
Same here. Same here.
Yes. Gary, thank you so much for allowing us to use this platform, and to the NAHREP membership for hearing us today.
Thank you for the information. I know everybody appreciates it, and it was very well done. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Yeah. Take care now. Take care, Steve. Enjoy your vacation.
Bye, Debbie. Take care.
Bye, everybody.